Thanks for coming out tonight, everyone. It is true that you cannot see a single person's face from up here. All right, here we go. Creative processes start with curating. People are always drawn to a certain image, idea, song, color, or texture. I think by analyzing specific attributes of things that we're immediately drawn to, we can use that to build a language for ourselves to use for our own creative process. I take a ton of photos. That's how I build my visual language. If I see something I think is weird or interesting or funny, I take a quick photo of it to look at later. I want to show you how I use this process to inform my work as an illustrator. One of the things I love to do is put everyday items on a pedestal. I think it's pretty hilarious to take a photo of something like that, like a cinder block, and make it seem like it has its own identity and its own environment. Something like that, I also look at the shadow on the left-hand side and think it looks really graphic and kind of interesting. I'd been wanting to do an illustration featuring security cameras for a while, so I started taking photographs of them, and it felt kind of empowering to watch something that was always watching me. That's kind of the inspiration behind this. But you can see how those three original images kind of led into that. In addition to taking a bunch of photos, I also collect photos. So I gather slides. This is from a slide collection from an old family in their vacation through Northern Europe. I think the scale of everything in this is absolutely hilarious. And also, I'm pretty sure all those houses are made out of Legos. This is something I saw in the middle of nowhere. If you can explain this to me, please find me during the intermission, because I've never seen anything like it. I'm pretty sure they used one of those giant metal barrels for the man's hat. When I first moved down here to Charleston, and Savannah before that actually, I started taking a lot of photos of all the neat old houses. I was blown away by the amount of houses there were down here that look like this. I'm especially intrigued by the super dramatic Victorian era stuff, and I work all the weird geometry and shapes into a lot of my illustrations. I love creating mysteries. For me, it's a lot more interesting to make something that isn't supposed to invoke one single emotion and gives you just enough information to make you believe that there is some specific answer. You just don't know what it is. Kind of like the guy with the "'Tis Here" sign. I know that's there for a reason. This is from a slide collection of a family that I have. I have a bunch of their photos, and the lady on the left isn't smiling in any of them. Even the vacation photos, she's totally American Gothic like that. Also, their address is 001, which is totally bizarre. I think that the way that this is collaged together really definitely catches my eye. I like how they put something together like this so that it definitely shows you that there is a narrative. You just have no idea what it is. But it's kind of, it's definitely intriguing. This is something I've been doing a lot. I've been really into these plastic chairs. I don't like sitting in them, but I do like photographing them and drawing them. I think that this color scheme is one of my most used, like a muted blue, pink, and green, just like this. Once you start building a library of things you find interesting, it's easy to pick them apart and rearrange them back together to create something that you had an initial concept for. And that's kind of what I do with something like this. I love how crazy this looks completely out of context, and that the ceiling is painted the same color as these mounds. But this is actually in the Natural History Museum, and they are fake termite mounds. And I love that it looks like some kind of crazy flying saucer is flying over it. I bought this and a bunch of other photos off this guy in Hollywood, South Carolina. I love that the boy in it is squinting. I almost never draw a person with their eyes wide open. I'm not totally sure why. I also really love the way that the fence is cut in the background. I've never really seen a fence like that before. This is something that I'm absolutely in love with. It's like this perfect collage that I found on the sidewalk where it's like all these really interesting objects put together in a completely minimal space. I love how small the ladder is, and it almost looks like, why is it even there? Sometimes I like to think of my drawings as miniatures, like in an old train set, where I'll take all these things and I'll build a set with them, and then I play with the scale of everything so that you can't tell what's real and what's in the set. And then sometimes I'll put a figure in there, and sometimes they know they're in the set, and sometimes they don't. When I first saw this slide, I definitely thought that was an alive polar bear. But that girl has his back turned to it, so I'm pretty sure it's not. I love the texture of this and the way that the bright white fur kind of like pops out of that speckled granite and these pebble stairs over on the other side. I'm immediately attracted to because it's something that this is from a trip to Iceland I took. Someone thinks this van is very beautiful, and they put a lot of work into something that like seems totally impractical. Like I said, I take a bunch of photos of houses. This is one I took, and it was already sitting on top of this hill, like it's already on the pedestal, and there's this big grassy mound, and it's made it really easy for me to personify. And then I noticed that it has no windows on one side. It's just one giant trapezoid. And then I saw the square of grass in front of it, which looks like it's supposed to have a tree, but it just doesn't. Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. That was my thought.